Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to detach ourselves from the idea of traditional fixed braces and dive into the pretty amazing and innovative world of removable orthodontic appliances.
So let's just start with the biggest question right off the bat. Is it even possible to get that perfect smile without having brackets and wires glued to your teeth for months or, sometimes even years? Well, the answer is a big yes, and the technology behind it has this surprisingly rich history that we're about to get into.
Okay, before we dive into all the different types, let's just zoom out and look at the big picture. Removable appliances? They've got some obvious wins. They're usually made in a lab, which can mean less time sitting in the dentist chair for you, and of course, you can take them out. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. Their success is 100% on you. If you don't wear it, it just doesn't work. Simple as that. Plus, for really complex tooth movements, fixed braces, they still have the upper hand.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the OGs, the mechanical movers known as active plates. Then we'll pivot to functional appliances and see how they work with your body's own power. From there, we'll jump into the digital age with clear aligners. And finally, we'll take a quick peek at what the future holds.
First up, active plates. You can think of these as the original workhorses of removable orthodontics. They were designed to do one thing really well: physically push and expand your dental arches using pure mechanical force.
This is so interesting. While the US was basically all in on fixed braces from the get-go, Europe took a totally different path. It started with some early designs, but things really kicked into high gear in Germany back in the 1930s. This led to innovations like the Schwartz split plate for widening the arch and the Genius Adams crib, which helped keep the appliance locked in place. This was a major fork in the road for how people thought about orthodontics.
So, why did Europe go one way and the US another? Well, the answer is pretty wild. It was basically born out of necessity. In the 1930s, Germany actually banned using precious metals in dentistry. This meant orthodontists had no choice but to get creative with what they had, which happened to be things like acrylic and steel wires, materials that were absolutely perfect for making removable plates.
So what exactly is an active plate? Well, at its core, it's a piece of acrylic that fits snugly against the roof of your mouth or along your lower teeth. And hidden inside that acrylic are the little engines, tiny screws or springs that create the force you need to move teeth, usually to make a narrow dental arch wider.
And those little engines come in two main flavors. On one side, you have jack screws. You give the screw a turn, and it creates this heavy but short-lived force. That's perfect for slow, powerful jobs, like expanding the entire arch. On the other side, you have springs. They give a much lighter, more continuous force that's way better for delicate jobs, like tipping a single tooth into the right spot. It's really all about picking the right tool for the job.
Okay, now let's switch gears to our next category, which has a completely different philosophy. We're moving away from pure mechanics and into something way more biological. We're talking about functional appliances. These are less about pushing teeth and way more about guiding the growth of your jaws themselves. The concept here is just brilliant. A functional appliance works by basically changing your bite. It holds your lower jaw in a new, more forward position. That simple repositioning stretches your facial muscles and all the soft tissues. That new tension then gets sent back to the jaws and teeth, creating these gentle, natural pressures that can actually guide how the jaw grows. It's pretty amazing. In this quote, this just perfectly captures the massive philosophical gap between European and American orthodontics in the middle of the 20th century. While American orthodontists were using fixed braces for precise mechanical control, European pioneers like Hopp truly believed that the only long-lasting, stable correction came from harnessing the body's own natural forces, not by fighting against them.
Now, these appliances aren't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. They fall into about four main groups. You've got your passive, tooth-borne ones that just rely on that muscle stretch. Then you have active versions that add in little screws or springs for an extra kick. A third type is tissue-borne, which actually uses shields in your cheeks to guide growth. And finally, you get hybrid designs that kind of mix and match all these parts for really specific cases.
And that brings us to today, to the technology that has absolutely turned adult orthodontics on its head: clear aligners. This is where things get really high-tech. We're talking computers, 3D printing, the whole shebang.
You know, clear aligners didn't just appear out of thin air. Their ancestor was the simple plastic retainer that was super common back in the 80s.
Some really clever clinicians realized that if they tweaked the model of the teeth just a little bit, the retainer could actually cause a tiny amount of tooth movement. But the real quantum leap happened in the late 90s, when a company called Align Technology figured out how to use computers to do this on a massive scale.
So let's be really clear on this, because it's the most important part. The big innovation wasn't the piece of clear plastic. The real honest-to-goodness breakthrough was using computers to design and make a whole sequence of these aligners. Each one is just a tiny bit different from the last. This allows for incredibly precise, gentle, and predictable movements, one small step at a time. This digital process made complex treatments possible without any brackets or wires, which was a total game changer, especially for adults.
So how are they actually made? It's a pretty cool high-tech dance. It all starts with a 3D digital scan of your teeth, no more goopy impressions. Then, software breaks that scan apart, separating each tooth so it can be moved around in a virtual world. Next, a technician, following the doctor's prescription, maps out the entire movement, step by tiny step. Then, a whole series of models gets 3D printed, one for each step. And finally, the clear aligners are heat-formed over those printed models.
But, and this is a really big but, even with all this incredible automation, the human expert is still the most important part of the puzzle. The most critical step in the entire process is when the orthodontist looks at that virtual plan and gives it the thumbs up. They have to use all their training and expertise to make sure every little movement is safe, realistic, and won't harm the patient. The computer proposes, but the doctor decides.
So, we've gone from simple mechanical plates to these clever biological guides, and now to these fully digital sequences. This whole journey has been about more and more innovation and more personalization. So where do we go from here?
The trend is pretty obvious. Everything is heading towards being hyper-personalized. With 3D printers becoming more common in dental offices, it leaves you with a pretty fascinating final thought. Are we getting close to the day when your orthodontist will scan your teeth, design a totally custom appliance right there on the screen with you, and then just print it out while you wait? It really seems like the future of orthodontics isn't just removable, it's custom-made, just for you.